I'm an abashed fan of the brand, and I'm just a big fan of food in general. So I sort of notice things in the supermarkets, like, oh, now there are Milk Bar cookies that you can buy in the cookie aisle, which is very dangerous, Marguerite. This is a bad idea. Pull this from shelves immediately. You're going to kill us all. But that's a recent move I saw, and the Fuku crispy chicken sandwiches at Shea Stadium. Oh well, now it's Citi Field, at Citi Field, and I think MSG, right?
Yeah, Barclays.
Yeah, I mean, so all these things, I'm sitting there going, oh wow, look how they're expanding. Look, are these things specifically that you were helming? I'm just curious, like and how does a deal like that come together? Let's take MSG for example. Do you go to them? They go to you? I would love to hear the details of these kind of licensing deals.
I think what we've been trying to do in the past is basically create these businesses, right? And so, operating a bakery like Milk Bar is very different than sit-down brick-and-mortar restaurants like we were doing. And concessions, totally different business model than what we're doing. And so, Dave created Fuku really as this what is something that actually would work at MSG and actually be better at MSG than if you were to go into a brick and mortar location. Having the chicken sandwich sit in the steamed bun and then the bag steaming the bun on it, all of these things were thought about as how do you make something that actually gets better with time. Anyway, but the idea is once these businesses get to a place where they're mature enough to have their own teams, because they're, don't get me wrong, there's definitely shared advantages to having everyone working on it, but they really are such different models, like consumer packaged goods, right? It's totally different business model than restaurants. And so we basically get these businesses to a place where we can almost set them on their own to be successful and kind of spin them out.
So Marguerite, I understand that you pushed Momofuku to shift a minimum of 50% of revenue to come from areas outside of traditional restaurants. And we started touching on the direct-to-consumer business, these home products. Is this shift a result of some of the risks you saw during the pandemic of relying so heavily on dine-in revenue, or is this something that you had been planning for some time?
Definitely planning for some time. I think this has been said, but I think the pandemic really just revealed what was already true about the hospitality and restaurant industry, was that it was and what my grandpa's been telling me for my entire life, it's a really, really hard business, and that got hard, food prices have gone up, rents going up, utilities, basically everything that makes operating the business more difficult. And so, and I think we've perceived a cap to what people are willing to pay for food, at least in a restaurant environment. And so we were thinking of, how can we kind of create a diversified business plan, but also, something that's also symbiotic, where these different pieces can work together. And so we started working on these home cooking products back in 2019, and they, obviously that plan got put into hyperdrive come March 2020. And so we were able to put out products. I think it was September 2020, we were able to put the first things out. But I think, for us, it really is just restaurants are, always going to be kind of the hub, right, of all of this. But how do you create diversified ways for people to engage with the brand? And, the fact that I'm obsessed with is that of Dave and Momofuku's followers on social media, which is over 2 million people, 90% don't live in cities in which we operate restaurants. So there's always been this outsized, understanding of the brand, interest in the brand, but we never had any way of reaching these people, right? Or engaging with them outside of, you visit LA, one time and you go. So we were so obsessed with this idea of how can we, engage with these potential customers, and really share kind of what makes Momofuku with a much broader audience. I think, restaurants are amazing, and if we're never going to scale in the way that maybe, Papa John's can, we're just never going to have a gazillion restaurants across the United States. It's just not our style. How can you reach a broader audience? How can you talk about, a lot of the things that we talk about in our restaurants with a larger audience? And so for us, these home cooking products and then the kind of education, that recipes, et cetera, that come with them, is our way of kind of growing without expanding physical presence.
If you like what you saw and you like what you heard, you can listen to the entire episode of this podcast, Business Casual, anywhere you get your podcasts. And please go ahead and subscribe to the Morning Brew YouTube channel and go ahead and click on that alarm bell, that thing right there, so you can be alerted anytime there's a new video.